Some days are harder than other days. It may be because we're in a bad mood, low on energy, or because everything seems to be going wrong. In this video, I share some thoughts about what we can do to make hard days easier. You'll learn about the mood congruency bias and emotional reasoning, amongst other things. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Becoming an Expert at Self-Leadership, a channel about personal growth, self-empowerment, and happiness. I'm Maika, a psychologist, and a bad day can have many different faces. It can mean that we are feeling down, unmotivated, uncreative, or just not like ourselves. And the first step in making these days easier is to get better at recognizing them, because a lot of what's going on a bad day, a lot of the challenges that a bad day brings come from not being aware enough of what's going on. On a bad day, it can seem like one thing leads to the next, and that life is just taking this course with us, and that somehow on that day, everyone and everything is against us. And we fail to notice all the ways in which we are contributing to what's going on and making it worse. This is mainly because the way we feel influences our choices, behavior, and thoughts, often in unconscious ways. And it starts with our thoughts. Our mood and emotions influence what we pay attention to, what we encode into our memory, what we recall and how we reconstruct it, and how we process thoughts and experiences. And you have 3 guesses as to how our mood and emotions influence our thought processing. Congruently, meaning that if we're in a negative mood, we will pay attention to things that are cues for negativity. We will memorize or encode facts that are negative or discouraging. We will recall things that are negative, or better yet, the way we reconstruct what we remember will make things look worse than they were. And the way we process information gets changed too. It becomes more narrow, rigid, and focused on detail. This is called the mood congruency bias. And this also has advantages. Sometimes it can be helpful not to be exuberantly positive, because then we'll be less distractible and it'll be easier to focus on the details if we're doing something that requires that. But if we are unaware that the mood congruency bias is always at work, it can become a vicious cycle that leads to worrying about lack, insufficiency, unfinished to-dos, not believing that any of our dreams will ever be fulfilled. And that can divert us from doing something constructive. And those thoughts and that behavior then reinforce that negative mood or those difficult emotions. And the mood congruency bias becomes especially strong if additionally we engage in something called emotional reasoning. That is when we base our conclusions and predictions about the future on our mood and emotions and not on facts. It's when we get up in the morning not feeling well and predicting that the rest of the day is going to be horrible just because the morning wasn't that good. It's when we feel like things won't pick up again, that there's no hope for us, and then we believe that feeling and predict that our future doesn't have any hope in it. But that prediction is based on a mood, not on facts. It's based on emotions. It's emotional reasoning. And that's what makes or creates this downward spiral, this vicious cycle on a bad day, that we're not aware of the mood congruency bias and then engage in emotional reasoning and add on to that. So mood congruency is just the way our brain works, and emotional reasoning is something we do actively ourselves. It's when those spontaneous mood congruent thoughts pop up and we just go along with them. It's a lot more helpful if we can take a step back and observe that mood congruency and let those thoughts pass by without doubling down on them. Because if we don't do that, our mood will not only reinforce itself through our thoughts, but also through our behavior. This can look like procrastinating on something, not even giving it a try because we feel like we don't have a chance that day, or falling into other unconstructive habits that make us feel even worse. When we are caught up in emotional reasoning, we will make negative predictions about the future and then unconsciously contribute to making those predictions come true through self-fulfilling prophecies. So the first step in getting better at hard days is to become more aware of whenever you're susceptible to falling into the mood congruency bias or emotional reasoning. To notice slight signs that today I'm susceptible for emotional reasoning. Let me be aware of that and let me observe whenever that may happen. Because then you empower yourself to ask yourself, is it really this bad? Or does it only seem this negative because of my low mood? Is the situation really this hopeless, this discouraging, this negative? Or is my view of it distorted by my negative mood? Then you empower yourself to ask, is this what I'm remembering from my past? Was it really that bad? Or am I reconstructing it, recalling it in a way that is negatively distorted because of my mood? You empower yourself to guide your interpretations and not let them be guided just by your mood. You empower yourself to act based on your values and goals and not only based on a fluctuating mood. And to let go, you can say something to yourself like, thanks, brain, for this association of emotions, mood, and thoughts. Because I'm in a low mood today, I want to let this thought pass, since in all likelihood, it's negatively distorted. Understanding this dynamic not only teaches us what to do to notice, observe, question, and let go, it also teaches us what not to do. Don't try to solve problems or come to an important decision on a bad day. The low mood and mood congruency will bring up all these apparent issues, things that are wrong with you, everyone else, the whole world. And because on a bad day, we're so overly aware of all this negativity and apparent issues, it can be tempting to think that now that we're so aware of it, we should take care of it and try to solve all of these problems. But because of mood congruency, we cannot, first of all, even trust that all of these things that are coming up are even real issues, or if they're just negative distortions. And number two, on a bad day, we don't have the mental resources to come up with creative solutions. On a bad day, the brain functions in a very narrow and rigid way. It just doesn't think like the way we need it to think when we try to come up with a new solution, creatively, broadly. So that's another group of thoughts that we can acknowledge and let pass by on a hard day. All kinds of thoughts that tempt us to solve a problem. You can tell yourself, thanks for bringing this to my attention, brain, but today's not the day to get into this. And you can also write it down if you want. That way you signal to your brain that you've written it down, you don't need any more reminders. And that if it's really still an issue when you're feeling stronger again, you can take care of it then because you've written it down so you won't forget. And since it's a hard day, be extra compassionate and kind to yourself. life is harder on a bad day, so you need more kindness and compassion. Focus on things you can do to support yourself, like uplifting self-talk, staying hydrated, regular healthy meals, getting some movement, nature time, resting, playing. The brain needs all of these things to function properly. And what's also really helpful is constructive action on a bad day. If you've tried progressing in a task on a bad day and you're noticing that you're not getting anywhere, but you've given it one or two honest tries, it's helpful to think of the next most important thing you can do that is constructive, to stay in that space of constructivity. And even if it's less important or something that's a really small thing, but that has just been on your agenda for a long time and needs to get done, that can help uplift your mood. And what also helps is to ask, what would I be doing if I were in a better mood? And then do that. And often you can see that your mood then improves. What do you do to make life easier on a hard day? Let us know in the comments. I'd love to know. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new here. Take care till next time. And remember that life is not as bad as it seems on a hard day.